hell? Okay. I must click something and not nothing. uh, well,
That was funny.
yeah. I must click something and not stop the
That
intro.
was funny.
That computer disrespect. You cut out my intro. Well, yo, this is your boy DT. DT's Unfiltered Uncensored. Streamed live, streamed worldwide on all streaming platforms: YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook. You can also find me on Instagram. All you gotta do is search DT underscore Unfiltered Uncensored. Go to my bio. Make sure you follow me. Click that link. That gonna take you to my YouTube page, and make sure you subscribe to all my YouTube content. All right, so today I got us. We're doing a short little segment. Man, KDH been talking the last few days. And I post something on my Instagram, well, my Facebook page, and I post on Instagram in quite a few places. And the topic um was the trade with Trae Young and Luka Doncic a good trade? If you look at it now, if you look at what's going on now, back to then, even before then, before they made the trade, what they did prior to their season. I want to say one thing real quick before we get started. I will not argue with anyone, have a debate with anyone who criticized the ones that in the past that paved the way for these young for the ones that playing now. So when somebody texts me and said, "Fuck them old ass niggas" or something like that, you lose all credibility because without them, there will be no LeBron. Without them, there will be no KD. Without them, will be no Luka. Without them, it won't be no Trae Young. Without them, it won't be no Jordan without someone in the back and that paved the way for Jordan. So I just want to say that. So when you say stuff like that, you lose credibility. And one thing I have noticed, and I'm gonna just say this: we're critical man, KDH to start. I have learned that the people who actually play high school ball, college ball, and who actually coaches right now are some of the worst judges. Worst judging performance or judging players or judging talent. I have noticed that they stay very one sided. So sometimes people want to criticize Stephen A. Smith, but sometimes Stephen A. Smith make more sense than some of the people who actually played the game. I'm gonna stop right there. Okay, so KD, so it's been a lot of debate lately. I mean, people been posting on my story saying that the trade wasn't a bad trade. They said the trade was a trade. I mean, we're attacking Trae Young because of this year. But if I recall, I think you and I were both in agreement, even when the trade happened, that it was a bad trade.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely think even before it happened or even after it happened, I still thought it was a bad trade. Considering both the I guess what portfolio for the players. That was kind of it was weird, but like I said, I can understand it from a culture aspect. Outside of that, I don't understand why the trade was made.
Yeah, because
Uh,
like most people, I tell you, they some people, and we both discussed this. You watch one team, or you support one team, or you're just a Atlanta Hawks fan, or you're just a Dallas Mavericks fan. But the thing about it is, some of these people don't watch the game of basketball. They just watch one thing, and they want to feel right. They want to feel like they feel like their team is looking bad, so they want to say it's not Trey's fault. But this season right now that's going on, it's Trey's fault. I'm gonna be 100% honest. This what's going on right now is Trey's fault. I watched the game last night. That was Trey's fault. The reason why they lost. Pulled a 3-point shot. Like how he almost near half court. Missed it. They could have won that game last night. But okay, so before what we get started is the thing about it, what threw me off is I did research and I see all the accolades and all the achievement, all the highlights Luka had prior to even entering the draft. Then I looked at Trae Young's. He had a couple. He was a McDonald All American. There's a lot of players I know was a Met Down All American. They still didn't make it nowhere. Um, how do you feel when you look back at Luca's years prior to the NBA compared to Trae's prior to the NBA?
Well, I think Trae Young was an outstanding player in high school. I mean, definitely one of the best talents when it came to high school, basketball, because it's high school basketball. And in college, he definitely showed that at Oklahoma that he can score at an elite level. And I will give him all the benefits of the doubt prior to the NBA that he can score on all levels. But basketball comes more than just scoring, and that's where I think Luka Doncic kind of has the edge over that. Considering of not only can he score, he can also assist, the same as much as Trae, but he could also defend a little better. I'm not saying he's a good defender, but he could defend better than what Trae Young was able to do. He's able to definitely lead a team, I think, a lot better than what Trae Young was able to do. I think the size alone is a much outstanding thing compared to Trae Young being 6 foot and Luka Doncic being 6'8". A lot of things I think Luka Doncic had a little bit more, well, not even a little bit. I think a lot more over the edge of the NBA. I mean, of Trae Young. And also with his portfolio being before that, I mean, he's already played against some of the great players that we consider great today. He's already won an MVP overseas against, grown men at the
Grown
age
man,
of
grown
16,
man.
17. He's competed very well. Not saying, Trae Young hasn't played talent like that, but not on the. I think Luka has been
Hold on,
playing
hold
professionally since 14 years old.
Let me stop right there. No, Luca has not played talent like that. I mean, not Luca. I'm sorry, Trae Young. No, he hasn't played. I ain't talking about.
Yeah, not on that. Not
We ain't talking
no.
about. We ain't talking about no pickup game at LA Fitness.
Yeah, that's where
Like,
I'm more so I was referring to. Like he's played a
yeah,
couple pickup games, but
yeah,
not a
that ain't count.
full
Nobody remember that. Nobody
regular
got that
season.
camera recording.
Yeah, not a regular season. I mean, I think that's what people are lacking in the trade is not understanding the basketball consistency of things. I mean, now you can look at now and be like, oh well, they've kind of had the same position, when it comes to Luka making it to the Western and Trae Young making it to the Eastern. But the difference is, I think panning out and their careers, Luka's going to have a way far better portfolio than Trae Young, which we're already starting to see that from last year's performance in the playoffs. And I think, right now in the season, we're starting to see that teams can handle Trae Young. But, before that, I think we could have still kind of made that assessment before the trade. It just seems like the Atlanta Hawks kind of went more so with a better player that would have fit their culture at that time.
Right, right, and I sometimes people make the wrong. They think the wrong way, make the wrong decision. You chose for the culture, which I understand, but you had one of the guys. When I'm looking at his like MVP over there with grown men, like he had so many achievements prior to that, and you
Mhm.
said that. So you know what? Let me take this McDonald All American. We already had one. They took him. They took. No, I can't remember the name, but back to what I want to say. The thing about how
Sharif
I look at,
or
no, I would think about somebody else. Trae Young's an undersized guard. He don't play defense. I know people say Luka don't play defense, but Luka play better defense than Trae. So we're gonna go there. The only thing that we could come up with that Trae does 1 point better than Luka is get assists. But he don't get more rebounds. He don't average more points. He don't average no block. I don't know if Trae ever blocked any one. He may have got 1 or 2 blocks. He his Luka's playing style equals victories. Trae's has equal victories in the past, but it been a lot of times when Trae blew the game because of taking unnecessary shots.
yeah, I
You
mean, I can agree. Yeah, I was just say I definitely can agree. I think that comes more so with the ego that he has. I mean, there's been a lot of comparisons about Steph Curry, considering what he was able to do beginning of his career. But like I always say too, Trae Young is not on the off ball game as well as Steph. I mean, Trae Young gets shut down off ball. He has to have the ball in his hands in order for him to perform. That's the big difference between Trae Young. And I think Trae Young, until he understands that and evolves into that game, it's going to be very, very hard for him to win a lot of these games. And it's starting to show. I mean, it's the reason why they took a big drop since last year's playoffs. But I think at the end of the day, they just need to understand that looking back now, if you were, well, not even looking back, let's just take it for now. If you're willing right now, you're going to take Luka for 5 years, or are you going to take Trae Young for 5 years? And I think Luka would still win that battle, as it did when draft night happens. When you go back in draft night, that's some of the questions you got to ask yourself when drafting a player. Are you going to take Luka for 5 years, or are you going to take Trae Young for 5 years? How will Luka's game, translate to the NBA? How will Trae Young's game translate to the NBA? And I think they got a little bit of their head of how well he was scoring, but not looking at the overall factor of he's undersized. He has to have the ball 90%, which most superstars do. I'm not going to take away from that, but with him being undersized, you make a mistake, it's you can't defend that. With the ball 90% of chances in your hand, you're not going to defend a fast break on basically anyone that gets in. And then, not to mention too, they do target Trae Young a lot on defense. Now they figured out that we can double team Trae Young, as Miami Heat did, and you're not able to score. So now you're not able to help your team win in the best factor. So looking back at it now, I mean, I think everyone should agree that it was a bad trade, considering that as time is going to continue, I don't see Trae Young progressing much better than what he's already had.
But you have somebody. So what do you say to the people who are here say, "Oh well, Luka holds the ball like 20 seconds and does everything and takes all the shots, and no one wants to play with him"? What do you say to that? Because I got a couple questions. So expand on how you feel about that.
Well, number one, superstars have the ball. I mean, we didn't complain when Jordan had the ball. We didn't complain when LeBron has the ball. We don't complain when Luka has the ball. We don't complain even when Giannis has the ball. We don't really complain about superstars having the ball. Especially, well, not even if they're a superstar, but the star for your team. They're going to have the ball. And I think Luka has already proven that he's not only going to have the ball, but he can control the game and he can make sure that these guys have some of the best plays. I think a lot of times these people look at just the stats and realize, well, oh, well, Luka had the ball this amount of times, but no, Luka makes plays happen. He makes his team better. He makes his players better. He shouldn't do well. They shouldn't do well off a roster on paper with what they have, considering so.
Okay, so here's the other question: what do you say when someone says, and this somebody told me this, Luka runs off talent. Nobody wants to play with Luka.
I mean, what talent did he run off? Considering that Kristaps Porzingis came in, he didn't even play a full 82 games within the first 2 seasons. Number one, so he wasn't healthy, as he has the problem with the Wizards now. Number two, it wasn't really a Luka pushing off Kristaps. It was more so coaching. Kristaps did not want to play the 5; he wanted to play the 4, and they told him your best spot right now is the 5 because we don't have any tall players. Why do you need to run the 4? And then with the only other superstar talent that they've had, well, not even superstar, but good talent, I would say that's credible, is Jalen Brunson, who, to be fair, didn't have a pretty good season last year. He didn't have a good season. He just had a great playoff run. And the year before that, he was barely talked about. Let's not forget, that some of the teams that he's already been on, like he's okay. But let's not get that twisted. He wasn't a great player. He wasn't even a good player. He was an average player. But due to his playoff performance, he did very well. Outside of that, who have they had that have left? Dirk Nowitzki was 42 years old, the last All-Star on the Dallas Mavericks when Luka was playing. 42 years. He retired the same year. Who else talent
What
was
about
around him?
somebody said? I remember a name, Spencer Dinwiddie. I heard he was he's
Spencer Dinwiddie made an All-Star, but again, there have been people who made All-Star due to injuries. There have been people who made an All-Star due to the players not wanting to play. There's been people who made the All-Star for all types of reasons. Spencer Dinwiddie did make it to the All-Star 1 year and hasn't done anything since. I don't know what you're looking for with Spencer Dinwiddie, but he's not starting on most teams.
I mean, when people say run off talent, good talent, star players, I'm trying to figure out. We named two, and I mean, I don't know no other one. I'm thinking back. I've been when somebody said that, I'm like,
Well,
I would think I said LeBron didn't play with them, KD didn't play with them, Giannis didn't play with them, Steph Curry, Clay Thompson, no, Kyrie. I don't know no other stars that he ran off that said they didn't want to play with Luka. I didn't get it.
it's not happened. I mean, let's keep it a buck. The only reason he can't get talent is because he's in Dallas. Dallas is a small market team. So is Memphis. So is who else is a very small market team? I mean, there's not too many teams like Jazz. Jazz are a small market team. A lot of the superstars they had or gotten were drafted drafted by that team. They don't bring superstar talent. When they had Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, they were both drafted. When Memphis, even how good as they are, they've drafted every single player on that team except for a few bench players. All the starters have been drafted. Dylan Brooks, John Morant, Jaren Jackson. Steven Adams wasn't. I will give you that, but he's not a center like he was when he was in OKC. He can be on any team as a role player, but let's just call it for what it is. Most teams that are small market teams don't get superstars. And when they do, when you say run off, did they leave the next year? Did they request a trade? Because that's 9 times out of 10 what that means when they leave. I don't remember Kristaps Porzingis requesting a trade because of Luka. I think he requested and came out on public television and said, I do not want to run the 5. Where else is the talent being run off from Dallas? They haven't had any good talent, really. And I think that's a lot of problem with the Trae Young and Luka. Like, the talent is big difference compared to the two.
So if so when somebody brought that up, of course it was speculations and there was rumors that he ran out of talent. Still trying to figure out what talent he ran off. But let's talk about the rumors with Trae Young. Or did he run off a coach? Isn't he trying to run off another coach? I mean,
not even run off. I think he's trying to leave Atlanta as much as they want to say. Like, so you drafted a guy that was probably going to leave you for 5 years because he didn't like your coaching or your play style. Isn't this a reoccurrence of what we get from Atlanta every year?
do you really feel like Trae Young could be a first option on a team?
He could if he develops an off-ball game. If he can't develop an off-ball game, it's going to be very, very difficult. Because even Steph is a excellent off-ball perimeter shooter. However, he doesn't need the ball in his hands. Klay Thompson can light it up. Jordan Poole can light it up. I can't say Draymond Green, but some of the other guys on the bench can get a couple points here and there. But with Trae Young, if he don't have the ball in his hands, no one else knows how to produce. Now with DeJounte Murray, it's had help, but we still haven't seen how this mashup is working as well as we thought. So to even say that, DeJounte Murray could work, it's not. I mean, right now, I don't see it within the next few years if Trae Young wants to have the ball 90% of the time in his hand. He doesn't. He shouldn't have the ball 90% of the time. He has to learn how to develop an off-ball game. If he can't, you can hang it up. He's not going to be a first option.
Got a question for you. If we switch players right now, this current roster they have players right now, where do you think the Hawks will be at, and where do you think Dallas will be at?
Well, I can't predict the future, but I think based off of my basketball knowledge.
No, I'm talking about not going forward. I'm talking about like right now. If we took right now where they at today's day, where they records that if they both played on opposite teams, how do you think where you think they would be at? Like, I mean, just looking at the talent, looking at what they could do, what do you think their team will be at ranked at in their conference?
Well, yeah, that's what I said. I don't think I could predict the future because I don't want nobody to think, he just knows it. But if I had to guess based off my basketball knowledge, I think Atlanta Hawks would be a top 3 team right now in the East with Luka Doncic. Dallas, I think, would be in the bottom as I think they would be close to the bottom because Dallas,
right now in Texas, they the number one, they the best Texas team. Do you think if they put Trae on that team, would they still be the best Texas team right now?
I don't see it.
Do you think they'll be the second? Who do you think could be first? If you put Trae Young on Dallas, who would be the first? Would it be Houston? Would it be San Antonio? Or would it be Dallas?
They're all so bad. They're all so bad. But I have to go with the young guns. I'll probably have to go with Houston first.
I was going to say Houston.
Yeah, I probably have to go Houston first.
It'd be a toss between San Antonio and Dallas to me. It'd be a toss.
Yeah, I'd probably have to go Houston first. If I'm not mistaken, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Atlanta Hawks close to the same record as Houston. I don't think they're much. I think I got like 7 games below. I don't think they're not that much farther.
Let me
pull I think Houston right now is the worst, but I don't think they're that far off. I mean, a couple games.
Houston's 20. They're 10-27.
Yeah, I think San Antonio Spurs got them by 2. And that's just really due to good coaching. I mean, that's just that the Houston has talent. It's just better coaching.
Hold on. So yeah, the Hawks are 17-19. Yeah, they so
Yeah. I mean, I think they're down by a couple games, but I'm not gonna say they'll be that bad. But I think Dallas, we've already seen them how they are without Luka. It's tragic. They didn't even score in double digits. So even if you add Luka, I mean, even if you add Trae Young in there, okay, cool. He may score the same as Luka, may assist the same, but now you're having a defensive liability, and those close games matter. Which Dallas has been winning a lot of close games.
okay, cool. So let's make the verdict. Was it a good trade? Do you think it was a good trade between Luka and Trae Young?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with no. Like I said, for the people that watch basketball and not the stats, and make their consensus based off the stats, I think taking Luca would have been the better option by far. Alone for one, he's 6'8". For two, he has a better back history. For three, he is a true generational talent. I think he is something special, and I think we could have seen that. But it's hard to judge. I'm not gonna lie, but I don't think it was hard to judge that one. I think the Trae Young trade was unnecessary. I think the Atlanta Hawks should have been able to kept him, and should have ran with the Luca and just figured out from there. I mean, that would have been my best consensus. I don't think that was a good trade.
Let me ask you a question. Did you think this last year?
Yes, I thought the same.
Did you think of the year before during COVID?
That one was kind of tricky because Trae Young was coming off a career that, considering that was his, I think, second year in the league, and him being able to average the highest, 29 points, I think the second highest in the entire league behind Joel Embiid, and then in the playoffs averaging 28, it was a little shaky. It was a little shaky because Luka was still kind of shaky his performance was outstanding, but we just like I said, with him getting that high and scoring that much and making it to the Eastern Conference, it was hard to be like, okay, maybe Trae Young is something serious. But then the following year, we'll see. He couldn't give him that yet, his third year in the league, but the following year, yeah, that's it.
I think what it was that year, nobody knew how to guard Trae. They didn't know. They was like, okay, how do we handle this? And I put like I think Trae Young has some great games. He does. He has some
Yeah,
great games. He has some good games. He has some awful games.
yeah.
I rarely see Luka with awful games. I see Luka with decent games, good games, and great games. And
To be
amazing.
fair, his worst game in the playoffs had 29 points.
Okay, so
I mean, I don't need to say the worst game, 29 points. That's his worst game in the playoffs, 29 points.
okay, cool. So
That was Trae Young's average in the first year he went to the playoffs was 28. Luka's worst game is 29. I shouldn't have to say more.
So my thing is, I want before we wrap this up, I want people to think I'm hating on Trae Young. I'm not a fan. I just
No,
don't. I'm not a fan of Trae Young. I'm not hating on Trae. I'm talking about. I'm looking at the basketball picture. That's what a lot of
Mhm.
people. It's a basketball picture. I'm not looking at it because one thing KDH, you can tell y'all, I'm very critical of Giannis when he makes mistakes.
Mhm.
I've always been critical of Westbrook. I was critical of Dwight Howard. I'm critical of all my favorite. So it's not me like I'm just hating because I would tell you about how I feel about them too. I didn't think Dwight Howard was a good fit with the Atlanta Hawks when he went there, but he went there and so like that. It happens. I just think from Jump Street, I always said it was a bad trade. I thought Luka, overseas players. I have seen we have so many talented ones that come over here, and you go trade and take Trae Young because he black. I'm just throwing that out there. Could that be because of the culture in Atlanta? Because he black. That could be part of the reason. But I feel like people want to build a team around him. I don't. I just
Yeah,
said
no. I,
Luka.
I'm. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying Luka was a better option, and I guarantee if you ask the front office in secret, tell them in secret, do they wish they would have kept Luka? I guarantee 90% of them say yes. We wish we would have kept Luka.
Yeah, I mean, you just got to look at Atlanta as a whole. They haven't really progressed anywhere regards of per season, and I think they were taking some of these European players that are hot stuff overseas. They feel like they don't have enough to really keep up with the NBA, and they think the Trae Young and what he was able to prove in high school with some of the top talent, and prove in college with some of the top talent, it was going to show in the NBA, as it did. I mean, like that's the way I want people to understand. Trae Young has proved very well that he can keep up in scoring wise and assist wise as an offensive player very well with some of the best. He is one of the best offensive players in the league. I will give him that. However, in the longevity of the career, is he going to be the person? I don't think that. Is he going to be the person that was going to lead a team better than Luka? I don't think that was the case. And it's not to hate. I've gave Trae Young his praise. I have hope that it was going to do well because I think Atlanta deserves that. You guys haven't won nothing since 1958. The league started in 1949. What's going on? Y'all are second behind in the biggest drought of NBA Finals behind Sacramento. I mean, right under Sacramento. Y'all, I mean, you got this much talent, had this many players. When are we going to finally get there? And I think that's what people are they're really putting the faith in Trae Young due to him scoring so much and think that's the only thing in basketball, that maybe if we get a guy that can score 35 points per game, he can win us a championship. That's not basketball. Scoring is a part, but there's a lot of other factors that play into it. And I think that people are just going off of the hope that, hey, we finally got that guy that is an offensive elite talent and he can get us there. And I don't see it happening. After 5 years and 5 years of him being in the league, I think I can come with the assessment that I don't see him leading a team to a championship. I think he can be a piece to a championship, yes. But do I see him leading? No. So now you got to find the pieces. Have they found the pieces? No, it's not worked out so far. We don't know how this year will go, but I think I think people don't need to take that, oh, we're hating on Trae Young. No, I think he's great offensive talent. I just don't. I think he needs to develop an off ball game to where you can have other guys shine and him just still being a elite factor that you cannot forget about, as they have with Steph. Once he gets that, then we can have more talks about his offensive game. But I don't think anyone should take that we're hating on him. I just think that the Luka Doncic trade, for what he has now, the league is not ready for it. No one can compete. If he was on the Atlanta Hawks right now, we would look at Atlanta Hawks totally different than when with Trae Young.
Right. All right. Well, we're going to wrap this up right now. Just one last thing I want to say is that I'm not saying this just because of this year. I've been saying this for multiple years. I've been saying this when the draft happened. It just put the icing on the cake. How Trae's performing this year is that it was a bad trade. All right. So if anybody got a comment, y'all can leave it down at the bottom. You got something you want to say? It's whatever. I mean, it is what it is. We're gonna say what we want to say. You got your opinion, say your opinion. It just wasn't a good trade. I'm gonna stick to that, and nobody gonna change my mind. And I don't expect everybody to agree with me. It's one person told me everybody should agree. No, everybody shouldn't agree with me. But when you're not making sense with your argument, your opinion is invalid, especially when you call the old heads or the ones who paved the way, old ass niggas and stuff like that. Man, come on. I'm not going to touch you on that. All right. So this is your boy DT from DT Unfiltered Uncensored with my boy KDH from the Band-Aid Boys podcast. Make sure you check out his what's your Twitter again?
Band-Aid Boys podcast.
Band-Aid Boys podcast. I'm sorry, my bad.
Yeah,
all right. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, DT_Unfiltered Uncensored. Subscribe to my YouTube channel by clicking my link in my bio, my Instagram page, and make sure you follow me. Until next time, this is your boy, the man, the myth, the legend, the one and only DT.
It's DT. You have just now listened to the most talked about podcast in the country. DT Unfiltered Uncensored. Thank you for tuning in, and see you next time. Damn. DT.